All right, well, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of non-traditional classroom materials, what types of things that we do that would be considered more non-traditional things that are kind of outside the box of what you think of normal teaching resources would be. Do you all have any examples of when you've used a non-traditional type of teaching technique in your classrooms?
Sure. We do some community outreach, especially in Capstone. Right now, recently they did a holiday dinner at the Ronald McDonald House, and they're responsible for getting all the food together. They have to go and cook it, and they serve families that are staying there. And that has been really successful. Every year we've done that since I've been here, and it seems to work really well. Students enjoy it. It ties directly to the program, and it, of course, aligns perfectly with what they're actually going to be doing at some point. So that has been very successful.
And we do something much like that. We do a 5K every year. So I have the students organize a 5K, and all the proceeds of that 5K go to developmental therapy centers, which is a physical therapy clinic in the tri state area. So we donate all the funds to that facility. And so, what I like about that is when you're using community service as kind of a non traditional material, you need to make sure you're tying it to a course outcome or a program outcome. So, when we do our 5K, we tie that to our program outcome that's related to communication. One of our program outcomes is that our students will effectively communicate both verbally and non verbally with other healthcare professionals and family members. So when they're out there organizing this 5K, they have to communicate with a lot of different demographics of people. So they're talking to more of a geriatric population, but they're also talking to a younger population as well. And we require not only the 5K, but we have another community service project that we require them to work with youth of the tri state area so that they are doing a lot of communicating with more younger population of people. So they are, again, working toward targeting that program outcome. So if you do use community service, you need to make sure that you are linking it either to a course outcome or a program outcome. And it sounds like, Kristen, that you do that as well.
It's really nice
You
when it
link it.
meets both. So,
Hmm.
yeah, but it does have to meet those program outcomes for sure.
So I have done this 5K a couple of times. I missed it last year, and I'm really kicking myself because I want to do it every year. I love
Next
your
year.
5K event. It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
You get to
Next year will
dress
be
up,
there.
and somewhere you have a photo of me just in front of your husband that we
Right.
need to work into this.
Yes, inching ahead of him.
Yes. So for my class, I teach business, so I have some service learning that we do as well. I don't know that that's. I guess it is non-traditional learning because you're not in the classroom so much. You're doing stuff outside the classroom. But in the marketing class I teach, I have two projects. One we do in the fall and one we do in the spring. Doesn't always work. This spring didn't come together. We tried something different, did not work. But in the fall, we have gone out to a cemetery that's been abandoned for 50 years and try to remediate it, which involves taking the headstones that are fallen out of the ground and trying to restore them upright or get them, one of them was cracked in half. We epoxied it back together. And everybody's like, how's that marketing? But I tie it in because the students have to try to get people to come out to help us while also telling the story about the cemetery, which is now on the National Register of Historic Places. So there is a story to be told there. And that's part of marketing is just like crafting your story, your offering. So if you were a nonprofit, that would be more nonprofit marketing where maybe you'd be raising money to help support this. Maybe you'd be trying to get people to come out and just give their time to help remediate the cemetery. And so they got to build a strategic plan. They got to do a press release. They got to get as many people out to help as possible. And then if people can't come out to help, that's okay too, because at least they're learning about this place that's local, that's important. So it's a service learning and a place-based learning. So they're learning, things that are relevantly local to them. And it's a little it's an interesting project. So in the spring, we do something a little different. I'm trying something new this year. We were going to do something similar to what you do. I want to
Right.
do something called Park Run, which is a big thing in the United Kingdom. And they have it in
Okay.
Charleston. Every Saturday morning, it's just a free 5K that people can go to. couldn't quite get the course right, though. I really wanted to do it at Harris Riverfront, and we just could not quite map that to where it's a comfortable 5K with no traffic. Because if it's every Saturday, you can't have the police out there blocking off traffic, and you can do loops, like what you do at Ritter Park or at Barbersville Park, like that works. But to do it every single Saturday is a bit of a commitment, and you want a nice course, and you want it to be somewhere afterward they can go and get coffee and a donut, and there's Namada Bakery right there. But it just didn't work. Harris Riverfront's too cramped.
Yeah.
And so, but it was a fun try. It was a fun try.
And I think that's something important to state if you're going to use like something like a community service, that a lot of it is trial, error, and assessment. Do it, assess, what worked well, what didn't, and then decide what types of changes you might need to make to the project to still do that said project. Or maybe it's just the project's just not going to work and you'll have to choose another project. Along the lines of non-traditional materials, I was kind of classroom teaching materials. Guest speakers is actually listed under there. We do a lot of guest speakers in my program because in physical therapy, there are specialty areas of practice. So bringing in guest speakers who specialize in that specific area is very beneficial to student learning, I think. So I think as new faculty, if you step back and look at even just your course objectives, if there's one that they may not really feel comfortable teaching, bring in a guest speaker that is specialized in that area. And I think that will give you good feedback from students. We always get excellent feedback from students when we bring in those guest lecturers. But again, make sure if you're bringing in a guest lecturer that you're linking it to content that is associated with a course or program outcome.
When you do that, are they always joining you in person, or have you invited them over Zoom to a class?
Both ways.
Both ways.
Because a lot of times these guest speakers might not be even in the area. So you could even bring them in from out of state and just Zoom them in. So it's always it's worked out real well. I have really never had a bad course assessment. And we do, along the lines of assessment, guest lecture. We've come up with a specific assessment of just the guest lecture. So we have guest lecture assessment forms. So after every guest lecture, the students will assess that.
That's
and
cool.
we have that data to look back on to say, are we going to invite them back again, or is it we need to move in a different direction? So
Along those lines, one of our visions for this space, this podcast room, is to generate content for our classrooms, just like what we're doing for the New Faculty Academy. But say you want to bring in a guest speaker and have like an in-depth interview with them that is forever, last and last and last for years, as opposed to they were here on this one day and for a short audience. If you can record that conversation in a nice professional studio, you could put that out there for a long time and keep reusing that in your classes. And so that's something that I think eventually we want to try to do here is bring in business owners, people in, healthcare, people in different sectors of the economy, talking about what their life is like, what their job is like, so that students can get a broad exposure to different areas of business.
yeah.
And this space is great for that. And you could have a student in here with you having that conversation, or maybe they lead the interview, or you could just have it one-on-one. I mean, there's lots of different things we could do with this space in that regard. And that's very non-traditional. Any kind of podcast content or video content, especially that you make yourself,
Yeah, that's a very good point, because we've even thought about that, because I have several guest lecturers who've supported our program for years, and we're always like, what happens if they can't come back next year? But now we have such a good way to, just record them via Zoom, and that's what we've been doing every time they come in. We always make sure it's a Zoom recording, then we download that. So we have that in case they can't come in the next year. We can just make sure by permission we could use that. So that's a great idea. And this would be even something amazing if you could do lots of in-depth interviewing and consultation in a room like this.